Hello, and welcome to the Centrify Identity Service Getting Started video. This on-demand material is intended to help administrators become familiar with Identity Service components and help establish a baseline configuration. At the end of the presentation, you should have a functioning cloud tenant that's ready to manage user identity and provide authentication to secure applications along with mobile device management. This video will cover the following topics: a brief introduction to the Identity Service, pre-planning considerations, registering for the Centrify service, integrating your cloud tenant with Active Directory or LDAP, configuring roles to manage user access and policy, configuring policy to manage user authentication and account recovery options. We'll add and deploy the first single sign-on application, and we'll enroll a mobile device for mobile device management. At the end of the video, we'll provide a brief summary and additional resources available to Centrify administrators. To briefly summarize, Centrify Identity Service improves end-user productivity and secures access to cloud, mobile, and on-demand premise apps via single sign-on, user provisioning, and multi-factor authentication. Centrify also allows administrators to secure access to cloud and mobile apps as well as manage the mobile devices used for access. Let's quickly discuss some pre-planning items you should consider during your rollout. Before getting started using Centrify, make sure you take a few minutes to validate your network infrastructure and resources. Ensure you have a clear understanding of your network topology and domain trusts. And as a best practice for implementing single sign-on, ensure your accounts have unique attributes across all domains. When planning your project rollout, identify key team members such as a project manager, IT administrators, and system engineers. Additional project players such as support managers and marketing can also play a vital role with ensuring a smooth rollout of Centrify. Be sure to plan your implementation with a well-defined strategy. Depending on a number of factors such as environment complexity, number of applications you wish to deploy, and the testing and rollout strategy you'd like to follow, could take anywhere from a few days to a few weeks. Centrify roles control which policies and applications are assigned to a particular user. It's important that you plan how you'd like to assign your roles before you actually do so. We'll discuss creating new roles a little bit later in this video. Determine the apps you plan to deploy. Successful deployments typically have the most frequently used applications available at the launch of your rollout. While working on the technical implementation, it's important to review your rollout strategy and plan your end-user communications. It's essential to present the benefits of the Centrify service to your end users and to provide clarity around any upcoming changes regarding user experience and login. Now that we have a general idea of the features offered by the Centrify Identity Service and some planning considerations, let's jump right in so you can see just how easy it is to get started using the service. The first step is to register at Centrify.com for a cloud tenant. If you've already registered at Centrify and created a cloud tenant, you can skip this registration step. To register for the service, open a web browser and navigate to www.centrify.com and select the Try It Now button in the upper right corner. On the product selection page, choose Identity Service for Apps. Enter your personal information and click the Request Free Trial button at the bottom. When filling out the fields with your information, be sure to register using your work email address. The domain suffix of your email address will be used to register a tenant login suffix. The login suffix associates users to a specific tenant. After completing the form fields, select the Request Free Trial button. After entering and submitting your information, you should receive an email that contains a link to activate your Centrify.com account. Once you receive the email, be sure to click the link to complete activation. After completing account activation, the Cloud Tenant Customer ID and login credentials will be sent in a new email. Be sure to keep this email in a safe place. Click the link for the Centrify Identity Service Management URL to be automatically signed in to the Cloud Tenant. After sign in to the Cloud Manager Administrative Portal, the Quick Start Wizard will be displayed. The Quick Start Wizard allows for quick and easy configuration. For this example video, we'll cancel the Setup Wizard to demonstrate manual configuration. After canceling the wizard, you'll be prompted to change your administrator password. Be sure to save the password and administrator username you received in the welcome email in a safe location. With just a few moments and just a few clicks, a cloud-based tenant and user directory is now ready for use. Administrators can leverage a cloud-only solution for creating user accounts, configuring policy, and managing applications and mobile devices. No additional software installation or infrastructure is needed. Cloud-only tenants can be advantageous for performing proof-of-concept testing or for smaller organizations that don't use Active Directory. Each cloud tenant includes both a Cloud Manager administrative portal and a portal exclusively for end users. The login URL for the Cloud Manager is cloud.centrify.com/manage, while the user portal URL uses cloud.centrify.com/my. Users will be redirected to your default tenant URL, as you can see in the address bar above. The tabs along the top row of the Cloud Manager allowed administrators to view dashboard overviews, administer users, deploy applications, enroll and manage mobile devices, configure policy, add and assign roles, run reporting, as well as global settings. Selecting the drop-down menu in the upper right corner will provide additional information about your tenant, including the ability to view your customer ID and the username that registered the tenant. The drop-down menu also provides a support function that allows administrators to grant read-only access to Centrify support. Selecting the Settings tab will display global settings for the tenant. The Settings tab allows administrators to set granular options such as account customization, logos, and branding, system configuration, including using your own mail server. We discussed the login suffix earlier. A login suffix is created automatically and based off of the domain suffix of the email address used to register your tenant. Administrators can create a new login suffix by selecting the Add button and determining the suffix name. Administrators are free to create any suffix they like, provided it is not currently in use within the service. As mentioned earlier, the login suffix allows the cloud service to map a user to a specific tenant. When a user signs in with username at their domain suffix, the cloud service is able to redirect that user to the appropriate tenant. The tenant URL selection allows administrators to configure a friendly login or vanity URL that matches one of the login suffix entries. Each tenant maintains a default URL, but any address created here can be used by end users. The tenant URL can be used in place of cloud.centrify.com. Additional settings for managing mobile devices and user authentication are also available. As example, selecting the mobile icon will display all the available settings for mobile device management. Selecting the authentication icon allows administrators to edit authentication profiles used to determine the types of authentication challenges a user can select. Administrators can also configure additional authentication methods as well as enable the cloud service to process radius authentication requests. Selecting the Network tab allows administrators to view any installed cloud connectors or set a corporate IP range. The corporate IP range determines which devices are considered to be within or outside your corporate network. Setting a corporate IP range allows administrators to assign policy based on the IP address of the client used for access. You would typically add your corporate intranet egress points to the public intranet here, and any devices outside of this range would be considered to be outside of the corporate network. Finally, selecting the Users icon will allow administrators to add additional directory services or add social login, configure partner management, and also view provisioning tasks. For additional information on these global settings, select the Learn More link or question mark link to be taken directly to Centrify Online Help. Now that we have a functioning cloud tenant, the next step would be to integrate with our local Active Directory. If you want to integrate your Centrify Cloud tenant with your on-premise Active Directory or LDAP directory for user authentication, A Centrify supplied software program called the Centrify Cloud Connector needs to be installed inside your environment. The Centrify Cloud Connector is a simple Windows service that runs behind your firewall to provide real-time authentication, policy, and access to user profiles without synchronizing data to the cloud. You would install the Cloud Connector on any member server having 8 GB of RAM and running Windows Server 2008 R2 or higher. Installation on a domain controller is not a requirement, but certainly can be used for testing or evaluation purposes. When determining where to install the service, domain topology comes into play. This graphic outlines installation when using trusted domains. You would use this model when the user's Active Directory accounts are in domains with domain controllers that have a two-way transitive trust relationship. In this model, you have a single cloud connector in the entire domain tree or forest. The identity platform communicates through this cloud connector for all authentication requests. This graphic outlines installation when using independent domains. You would leverage this model when the user's Active Directory accounts are in independent domain trees or forests. That is, there are domain controllers that do not have a two-way transitive trust relationship. You would install a separate cloud connector for each independent domain tree or forest, but register to the same cloud tenant. The identity platform picks which cloud connector to use for the authentication request based on the login suffix to domain mapping it creates and maintains. For this video, we'll be using a 64-bit Windows 2012 server with a single forest and domain tree of mobsupport1.com. The first step is to download the Centrify Cloud Connector. The download link is available in the Cloud Manager portal via Settings, Network, Cloud Connectors, Add Cloud Connector. Select the link and download the installation package to a local folder. Once the file has been downloaded, extract the contents. After extracting the contents, launch the installer. After launching the installer, the Cloud Connector installation wizard will start. Click the Next button to cycle through the installation windows. The installation wizard allows administrators to customize the components during installation. The Centrify mobile tools include extensions for Active Directory users and computers, as well as templates for group policy management. Installation of these extensions requires enterprise admin administrative rights, and installation is completely optional. Each cloud tenant is already configured to leverage cloud-based policy, but if you plan on leveraging Active Directory group policy, be sure to install these extensions. If planning to use cloud-based policy, these extensions can be disabled during installation. After determining the components to install, click Next. When the installation wizard is complete, select the Finish button to automatically launch the registration wizard. During the connector registration wizard, you'll be prompted to enter administrative credentials. Enter the cloud administrator account you received after registering your tenant. The Advanced button is used to select a different Centrify Cloud pod and typically does not need to be modified. Be sure to leave the cloud service setting at cloud.centrify.com. After entering your account information, click the Next button. If your organization uses a web proxy, you can enter that information here. For our example, we will not be using a web proxy. If you install the Active Directory extensions earlier during installation, be sure to check this box. If you did not install the Active Directory options, you can deselect this option. In order for the Cloud Connector to monitor deleted user activities, it's important to delegate permissions to the Cloud Connector service. To delegate permissions, select the checkbox for your domain and click the Next button. When prompted that permission delegation will occur, be sure to select Yes. During connector registration, a connection test to the cloud is performed. Be sure to note and correct any connection errors before continuing. Once the connection test completes and all checks pass, click the Next button to complete the registration process. Once the Cloud Connector registration wizard is complete, you can close the wizard. Centrify provides a simple user management interface for the Cloud Connector service. The interface displays the server name where the connector is installed and the customer ID. It also shows the connection state and the last successful connection time. Selecting the About button will display version details. The Cloud Connector tab allows administrators to re-register the connector if directed by Centrify support and to stop and start the service. Administrators can also view logs in real time and adjust update interval settings. The Cloud Connector can also be configured to auto-update as new versions are released. Administrators can also select a schedule when Cloud Connector updates should happen. After installing a Cloud Connector, you can view the connector information and status in the Cloud Manager by selecting Network and Cloud Connectors. The Cloud Connector Properties displays the IWA server settings and allows administrators the ability to download an IWA root certificate. The Cloud Connector performs IWA using HTTPS and requires clients have a trusted certificate for the Cloud Connector host. Administrators can download and push this certificate to clients using group policy or by manual installation. To deploy the certificate using group policy, first download the certificate to your local system. After downloading the file, launch the Group Policy Management Editor. Edit the desired policy set and navigate to Computer Configuration, Policies, Windows Settings, Security Settings, Public Key Policies, and finally, Trusted Root Certification Authorities. Right-click the folder and select Import. Follow the prompts in the wizard and navigate to the folder where the file was downloaded. Be sure to place in the Trusted Root Certification Authority store on the local client. The certificate is now imported and will be delivered to clients using group policy. Now that we've installed the Cloud Connector and have a successful connection, let's test Active Directory user login to the Centrify user portal. You can log into the Centrify user portal leveraging your tenant URL followed by /my. Enter your username and login suffix at the login window. Successful login confirms the Cloud Connector service is operating as expected. The Centrify user portal provides an exclusive area for end users to access applications, enroll mobile devices, and manage account information. Administrators also have the option to switch between the Cloud Manager and user portals when configured as a cloud system administrator. In this example, our Active Directory account user is a domain administrator but does not have access to the Centrify Cloud portal. In our next section, we'll discuss configuring roles to provide granular access permissions. Cloud Manager roles are similar to Active Directory groups and are sets of user accounts. Roles are used to assign applications, permissions, and policies. As example, if you add an Active Directory group to a role, the applications assigned to that role are now available to all members of that AD group. Similarly, when you remove a user or a group from a role, the identity platform removes access to all of the web applications assigned to that role from the user portal and the enrolled mobile device. To get started configuring roles, select the Roles tab in the Cloud Manager. Each Centrify tenant comes pre-configured with two roles, a System Administrator and Everybody role. The sysadmin role is the primary administrative role for the Cloud Manager and can't be removed. You can, however, modify its membership. Users that belong to this role, such as the default administrator account created during your tenant registration, have full permissions to modify any setting within the tenant. After installing a cloud connector, it might be a good idea to add additional Active Directory admin users or groups to this role, such as the Domain Admins group. To adjust role membership, select the Members tab and click the Add button. The Add Members window displays filter options as well as the ability to filter the sources from which you search through. In this case, we'll select the Domain Administrators group for Active Directory. Any member of the Domain Administrators group will be able to log in and access the Cloud Manager Administrator portal. After adding members to a role, be sure to click the Save button. The Everybody role is exactly what it seems, a role that contains all users regardless of the source directory. When you assign the Everybody role to an application or policy, all users will inherit access. The Everybody role cannot be removed and membership cannot be modified. You can also create new roles to allow for granular administrative functions such as user, app, or policy management, or you could limit admin functions to a read-only account that could be used to view data but not make any actual changes. When creating a role, set a descriptive name and then click Administrative Rights. If no administrative rights are selected, the role simply acts as a group. To add administrative rights, click the Add button and select the desired permissions. For this example, we'll use the Read-Only System Administrator permission to allow IT Help Desk to access the Cloud Manager portal but not create any changes. This could be useful to allow other teams to view user or mobile device information. When creating a role, be sure to also add members to the role. After configuring the role, be sure to save your changes by selecting the Save button. We'll also create a role used for application access we'll use later in this video. Careful planning should be considered when defining roles, as proper allocation depends on factors such as the size of your organization or current workflow. Some common methods for creating roles include team-based roles, such as sales or marketing, location-based roles, such as North America, or application-based roles that assign a role to a specific application. Administrators can choose to add both users and groups to a role. You can also nest other roles within a role. In the next section of this video, we'll configure cloud-based policies and associate them with these roles. Out of the box, Centrify Identity Service is configured with policy to provide multi-factor authentication during login to your tenant web portals. Centrify also provides password recovery policy controls for cloud-based user accounts. Administrators can configure end-user self-service options for Active Directory users too, to allow for password reset, account unlock, and forgotten username recovery. It's extremely important to ensure the recovery options for the default Cloud Administrator account you receive during your tenant registration. Recovery is important in case the Cloud Connector is unable to process Active Directory authentication due to a server or network outage. When the Cloud Connector service is unavailable, only cloud-based accounts will be able to access the service. The Policies tab of the Cloud Manager displays all configured policy sets in a hierarchical list. Policies that are higher in the list have a higher priority. The Policy Properties allows administrators to set a descriptive name and determine the roles for which the policy should apply. By default, policies apply to all users and roles unless an administrator makes a different selection. Before getting started configuring mobile policies, administrators should determine if planning to use Cloud Policy Sets or Active Directory Group Policy Management Editor to manage mobile policies. You would make this policy selection within the Cloud Manager settings by selecting the mobile icon and then Device Policy Management. Once the policy option has been set, administrators cannot change without impacting enrolled mobile devices, so be sure to set the preferred method prior to any device enrollments. If you select the Active Directory policy set, be sure you've also installed the Active Directory mobile tool extensions that come with the Cloud Connector installation package. For our example, we'll be using cloud-based policy sets. Mobile device policy settings allow administrators to determine if the Centrify service will be performing mobile device management. If using another MDM vendor, administrators can select No for this option. This allows Centrify to coexist with other MDM vendors to provide single sign-on services only. For our example, we want the identity service to manage our mobile devices. It's important to note when using Centrify for single sign-on only, users would still be required to authenticate to their mobile device in order to access the Centrify applications. While this process is similar to enrolling a mobile device, device enrollment does not actually occur. Device enrollment settings allow administrators to determine if users are able to enroll devices. You can enable or disable this policy. You can also determine the types of devices allowed for enrollment. Selecting additional mobile device policy options sections will display options available for that specific platform. User security policies allow administrators to configure multi-factor authentication restrictions and password recovery options for end users by creating login rules. In our example, users that attempt to log in from a browser that does not have an identity cookie will be challenged for multi-factor authentication. The challenges a user is presented with are configured using authentication profiles. As we mentioned earlier, administrators can manage authentication profiles from the Cloud Manager settings. Administrators can choose from a list of predefined profiles, or a new profile can be created. Be sure to give the profile a descriptive name that helps identify the profile usage. As example, password-only profile. When selecting challenge options, it's extremely important to ensure users have a method to meet the challenge requirement. For example, selecting phone call would require the user account has a telephone number associated in the account details. Selecting SMS text message would require the account has a mobile number configured within the account details. You can determine if the profile should have one or two challenges. When a profile contains two challenges, this is frequently referred to as two-factor or multi-factor authentication. In this example, users would have the option to choose between password, phone call, or text message when attempting to log into the Centrify user portal. As an additional challenge, users would also need an enrolled mobile device to display the mobile authentication code. Administrators can also allow login when a user does not meet any MFA requirements, or can selectively unlock MFA requirements for a specific user for a 10-minute duration by using the Users Page Actions menu. During testing and initial configuration, administrators may wish to temporarily disable MFA to simplify login. However, this step is completely optional. Account self-service options allow end users to change passwords, unlock accounts, or recover username information. In our example, cloud users that attempt to recover a password will be required to satisfy challenges based on the authentication profile selected. By default, Active Directory users are not able to manage passwords via the Centrify portal unless enabled by an administrator. In order to enable these policy options, the account used to run the Cloud Connector service must have password reset rights in Active Directory. The local system account used to run the connector service does not have this permission by default. Administrators can choose to delegate password reset permissions to the local system or use a service account that maintains the required permissions. For a full listing of the required permissions when using a service account, please refer to the Centrify online help guide. Even if not planning to enable this option for Active Directory users, it's strongly recommended to leave this policy enabled specifically for recovery of the Cloud Administrator account. Besides allowing users the options to recover passwords and unlock accounts, administrators also have the ability to enable forgotten username at the login window. This option is available in the Cloud Manager settings under Authentication and Security Settings. Select to enable the option and be sure to save the setting. Additional password policy options for password age and complexity are specific for cloud-based user accounts only. Configuration of Active Directory password policy options should be configured within Active Directory. After configuring policies, you can verify how the policy will apply to users and devices. Select a user or device properties to view the current policy summary. This will display both the policy settings and the actual name of the policy set. Administrators can quickly view if the policies are applied in the correct order and make any adjustments as needed. At this stage, we now have a cloud tenant that can process login authentication for both Cloud and Active Directory users, provide MFA challenges, and allow for end-user self-service options. The next step would be to determine the applications you wish to deploy. Centrify provides a catalog of application templates for many popular web apps. To get started, select the Apps tab from within the Cloud Manager. As an important note, when configuring applications or performing federation that might alter the end-user sign-in experience, be sure to communicate these changes to your users prior to deployment. To add a mobile application, select the Add Mobile Apps button, select the desired app from the catalog, and determine the role to be associated with installation. Users will be prompted on the device that a new mobile app is available and can select to install at a time that's convenient. Administrators can also push custom-developed applications to a mobile device. Centrify provides a massive catalog of pre-canned application templates, including username, password, and SAML authentication methods. These app templates can be quickly deployed to end users with just a few clicks. Can't seem to find the application you're looking for in the catalog? Centrify also provides a selection of custom app templates that can be manually configured as needed. Some applications require the use of the Centrify browser extension to automatically enter user credentials into the web application. Users receive a prompt to install the browser extension the first time an app is launched that requires it. Once the browser extension is installed, users are no longer prompted when launching the app. If you remember earlier in this video, we created a role named Office 365. Let's add the Office 365 username password application from the Centrify catalog and associate it with this role. Any user that's a member of this role will have access to Office 365 in the user portal. After selecting the Add Web Apps button, enter Office 365 into the search field to see the available app template types. You can see we have a few options for Office 365. A username password app template is available for non-federated managed Office 365 domains. A WS-Fed plus provisioning app template is also available for federated Office 365 domains. Not sure which one to select? If your end users currently log in directly to Office 365 using the Microsoft Login portal, chances are you'll need the username password app because your domain is likely in a managed state. If you're currently using ADFS or have a federated Office 365 tenant, be sure to select the WS-Fed provisioning app template. Since our example Office 365 domain is not currently federated with Active Directory, we'll select the username password template by clicking the Add button. Select Yes at the confirmation window to add the app template to the Cloud Manager. When finished adding app templates, be sure to close the app catalog. After adding an app template, the app needs to be configured to provide user access and determine how user credentials will be provided. we'll associate the Office 365 role that we created earlier to allow user access, and we'll configure the app to prompt the user for their username and password. Each application added to the Cloud Manager will display as ready to deploy in the status column of the Apps page. Once the app is associated with a role and users have access, the status will change to deployed in the Cloud Manager. This app is also available for users to access via the Centrify user portal. If we log into the user portal using an Active Directory user or a user associated with the role, the app tile should be displayed. Launching the app will prompt the user for credentials during first-time launch. If the Centrify browser extension is also required, an installation prompt will be displayed. Click the Install button to install the browser extension. When installing the browser extension specifically for Internet Explorer, administrators or users must take the additional step of enabling the add-on within Internet Explorer settings. Once the user has entered their credentials and installed the browser extension, launching the app should take them to Office 365. Administrators can choose to use the Identity Service for Mobile Device Management, or MDM. Centrify provides mobile device configuration policies that can be set using either the Cloud Manager or Active Directory Group Policy Management. You can determine the policy set by making your selection in the Cloud Manager settings. Centrify also allows the ability to send device commands over the air and deploy native Android, iOS, and macOS applications. The Devices page lists all the devices that have been enrolled in the Centrify Identity Platform. This page is blank until devices are enrolled. You can use the column headers to sort the devices by name, type, description, and status. By default, the Identity Platform is set to provide mobile device management. However, you can reset this option to provide just single sign-on for web applications, as we mentioned earlier. This allows Centrify to coexist alongside other MDM solutions. When you configure Centrify Identity Platform for single sign-on only, the Cloud Manager will still list devices that have signed into the service. However, your device management options will be reduced to single sign-on functions only. Devices must enroll with the Centrify service before they can be managed. Administrators manage device enrollment permissions using mobile policy that we discussed earlier. By default, all users are allowed to enroll mobile devices. When enrolling a mobile device, administrators and end users have a few options. We'll switch over to the Centrify user portal to demonstrate end user self-service enrollment. End users would log into the Centrify portal and select the Devices tab. The Add Devices window will open automatically and provide end users with a few options to enroll their devices, including SMS message, email, or scanning a QR code. Users can also go directly to the respective Google or Apple app stores to get the Centrify application directly. Once the app is installed on the device, users simply need to enter their username and password credentials to complete the enrollment process. For this example, we'll demonstrate enrollment of an Android device into the Centrify Identity Platform. After downloading and installing the Centrify mobile application to the device, enter your Active Directory or Cloud Directory username and select Next. Enter your login password and select the Next button to complete enrollment. After device enrollment is complete, the Centrify mobile app will display any web applications that have been deployed to the user. Selecting the app properties will provide additional features such as viewing the policies associated with a mobile device. You can also leverage the mobile authenticator feature of the Centrify mobile app to satisfy MFA challenge requirements during login. If you plan on enrolling in iOS or macOS devices, administrators will first need to configure an Apple Push Notification Service, or APNS certificate, and establish a trust relationship between Centrify and Apple. It's strongly recommended to create a generic or universal Apple ID not tied to a specific individual when creating your APNS certificate. This allows the certificate renewal notifications to be received each year in case an individual leaves the organization. To create an APNS certificate, log into the Cloud Manager and select Settings, Mobile, APNS Certificate. First, download the signing request from Centrify in step number 1 and upload this request to the Apple Identity Portal. Apple will use this certificate to create an MDM certificate that you would download from Apple and upload here in step 3 of the Cloud Manager. After watching this video, you should now have a working cloud tenant that's integrated with Active Directory to provide identity management and secure application and mobile device access for end users. Due to the wealth of features available to the service, it would be challenging to outline every single configuration scenario. Let's take a look at some of the additional resources that are available to Centrify administrators. One of the many resources available for Centrify administrators is Walk Me Through. Selecting the Walk Me Through button at the bottom of the tenant displays quick access links to perform various functions. Need help with adding users? Simply select the topic and follow the on-screen prompts. When navigating around the Cloud Manager and user portals, you'll notice many Learn More links to online documentation or pop-up tooltips that provide additional information about a specific feature. These links are specific to the topics in use. As example, clicking the Learn More link within a user properties will display information about managing users. You can also access the online help guide at any time by selecting the question mark in the upper right corner of the page. When selecting help in the Cloud Manager portal, administrative content is displayed. When selecting help in the user portal, user-specific content will be displayed. The Quick Start wizard that was displayed earlier in this video can be launched from the user drop-down menu from within the Cloud Manager. Simply start the wizard to walk through the easy setup process. The Centrify Customer Support Portal is available at support.centrify.com and includes an extensive knowledge portal with access to product walkthroughs, documentation, and downloads. The portal also provides a link for Centrify Trust where administrators can view and subscribe to service health and maintenance notifications. The Centrify Trust page can be accessed at any time by opening a browser and navigating to trust.centrify.com. We hope you found this video helpful with getting up to speed quickly using the Centrify Identity Service. For additional information not covered in this video, please be sure to visit us on the web at www.centrify.com.